Let's get started on talking about ChatGPT projects for marketing. This is really a part of um, a larger course that we do inside the Click Pro called Growth OS for ChatGPT. It looks like a long course because I cut it into very small little pieces for you guys. So you just do one little step at a time. Some of these videos are only like 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Others are a little bit longer. I think it takes about 3 or 4 hours to implement Growth OS. But Growth OS is this implementation of ChatGPT. And we're going to be working on a piece of that today, which is projects. You're going to learn a lot about projects today and how they fit into ChatGPT. I think you're going to improve the way you work so you can output more or you can output the same amount, but in less time. So you can go to, do whatever you like to do when you're relaxing using projects. You can see my screen here, how I've structured my ChatGPT account here with projects along the left and GPTs as well. And last week we went over GPTs and talked about those. And this week we're going to cover projects. So, why do we need to be implementing something inside of our AI these days? Well, it's because it's time to stop sort of tinkering around with AI. So, tinkering is getting us $0 work, right? So, we don't get paid to tinker. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to tinker with these AI tools. I love to play with them. I love to try new ones. I love to check things out. And it's actually part of my job is to stay on top of what's going on with AI tools. But I'll tell you this, you don't get paid to tinker. In fact, sometimes we end up buying something that we're tinkering with and maybe don't use it. But when we tinker around with tools like this, we end up with a whole bunch of half started projects, half built ideas, and just kind of nothing that actually turns into actual revenue. So what we want to be doing right now, if you take my advice, is to choose a tool and to learn it deeply, right? So go the mile deep instead of the mile wide on a bunch of tools where you're kind of playing with this and you're playing with that and you're doing this. Instead, choose an everyday tool here in 2026 and learn it deeply. And by the way, when you learn one tool pretty deeply, like you're going to find that the other tools work pretty much very similar and the same. My suggestion is that you learn ChatGPT, um, and I'm going to be showing you ChatGPT projects today. There is this level of tinkering that I think was fine in 2024. It got a little bit less, useful to do it in 2025, and then here in 2026, it's time to choose a tool, and it's time to really implement a real business operating system inside that tool. So my first advice is to do less tinkering here in 2026. Do more mechanic work, right? Get in there and start doing the work that actually earns money, right? So I call this $25 an hour work. It's work that we have to do. It's work that we do every day to manage, our marketing, our business growth operations, whatever it is, creating things like in the business with our hands doing the work. The exciting thing is that the more you learn about Growth OS and how you can implement it at inside of ChatGPT, the more of this mechanic work you can produce in less time, the higher quality mechanic work you'll be producing in less time. So the AI is really good at helping you with a lot of this mechanic work today. It's not going to do it for you. And when you learn how to use AI correctly, you'll find that you are as involved as you've ever been in your business. It's just you're using the AI properly so that you can produce more high quality output at that mechanic layer than ever. And here's the big idea here is that we have to start moving up the ladder. It was always smart to move up to this layer of strategy. It was always smart to do that. This is where I call $500 an hour work, where you're making decisions that could impact like the long-term revenue that is brought in by the company rather than just making more mechanic decisions in the middle here where it's like, well, what should I post on Instagram? What video should I produce or what email should I write? Like that's more mechanic stuff. When we get up to strategy is like, should we use Instagram? Should we, run a flash sale start running flash sales this year? Should we create a new offer? Should we try to reach a new persona? That's the kind of stuff up here at the strategy layer that your AI can also help you with, which is to say that it can extend your thinking. You can use it as a thought partner to help you think through strategy, pressure test strategy as well. So when I think about like big picture, what are we doing here? Well, we want to stop tinkering around with ChatGPT and just playing with it and creating these half-built things that we're working on in the company. You got threads all over the show and everything's disorganized and your AI is always forgetting things and you're always having to start over and do everything. Instead, we want to learn how to actually use the tool. We want to go mile deep on ChatGPT and learn this tool, how to use it to do work, do business. We want to use AI to help us through mechanic work so we can create higher value stuff, right, at that mechanic layer. And we want to use AI to extend our thinking and pressure test what we're thinking and come up with new big strategic ideas at that strategy layer. We want to spend more time up at the top of this pyramid because, again, more and more of this middle layer is being eaten up by the AI. It can do it for you, it can do it with you, it can augment and help you through that mechanic work. So kick up the ladder up into what should we do, right? Not how is it going to get done, but what should we do with the business? Okay. So when you start to implement Growth OS and implement projects, as I'm going to show you today, in the before state, you're spending a ton of time either tinkering or in that mechanic work. And after, you'll find that you're spending more time at that strategy layer where the big decisions get made about how much money you're going to earn this year or next year. So I added a problem here. I used to talk about two problems with AI, two AI problems. Now I've got three AI problems. Okay. So I sort of discerned this third one and I call it the drunk uncle problem. But there's really three big problems with AI that we run up against when we're using it. The first one's the cold start, which is like every session I got to start over. It just seems like I'm not getting any momentum inside of this tool. The second one is the boiled chicken problem, which is that every time I talk to the AI, I just get stuff that's like true, maybe, or like helpful, I guess. But just it's almost kind of useless, right? Because it's just super generic boiled chicken output, whether it's stuff I'm trying to write or plans I'm trying to make, all of it just seems boiled chicken. And it's like, it doesn't seem to understand my business well enough to really help me with the business growth work that I want to do. The last problem I just said, I kind of just added this one, but it's there. And I was like, oh, that's there. What should we call it? I started calling it the drunk uncle problem, which is that the thing goes off the rails. It forgets things, it hallucinates, it just makes stuff up and sort of acts like your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving dinner or something like that, right? And all three of these problems, the solution around them is the same. The solution around all of the problems that AI has are the same. What we want to build is an AI that knows your business and knows what you're working on. It starts to compound so that this is what I mean when I say stop tinkering around, choose a tool, whether it's ChatGPT or another one, but choose a tool and learn it deeply and invest your energy into it, right? So, and you'll start to see what it's possible to make it happen, what you can make happen. So we want an AI that understands your business, has proven frameworks and methodologies built in, and delivers on brand consistently. And it does it with like astonishing speed, right? So we don't want to have to start over. We don't want generic boiled chicken. We don't want hallucinations and forgetful drunk uncle AI. We want AI that's consistent, on brand, and understands our company. The one I'm going to focus on in this training today is the idea of has proven frameworks. This is a really powerful concept and it works really well with what we're going to be talking about today with ChatGPT Project. So let's dive into the mechanics a little bit. Like, how does this work? Well, this works on a concept in AI called grounding. So grounding is when we anchor the AI into the truth, if you want to call it the truth, right? Into trusted sources or context. So we want to anchor our AI's responses in something, right? If you're just working with an AI and you don't have it grounded, this is when you get uh the cold start, the boiled chicken, and the drunk uncle all at the same time, all at the party, causing havoc, and you end up with a half done project that's sort of like, well, it's not useful. It's just kind of sitting over there. And I guess let's forget that one too. And now you got all these threads building up over there. And it's because you're not understanding one simple concept in AI, which is grounding. When we ground our AI, we ground it in things like attachments. We can ground it into a web page. Let me show you really quickly what I mean. So if I go into ChatGPT, now let's just go look at my site real quick. And I'm going to go to this Click Pro page. This is my page for the Click Pro. And I go into ChatGPT and I say, tell me all about the offer on this page. And I give it a URL. And just to be extra sure that it uses the web search, I'm going to turn on web search. Usually it will turn that on its own. But I'm going to let it go and grab what's going on that page. And you should see it start to hit my web page up here if it does what it's supposed to do. There it goes. So hit my web page, and it's going to go pull in the information from from this page. Like, there's a lot going on this page about the Click Pro offer and what I sell here at the Click. And it's going to go and grab that and pull it into the thread. Now you can see that it's sourcing this information here. This is how I know that right now this AI is grounded in web search. It's grounded in a web page. So I can start to work with this grounded material. That million different ways I could go with what I'm working on here. I might want to work on improving the website copy. I might want to start to build a PowerPoint or Google slide deck out of this material. I might want to start to plan an email promotion based on this offer. Like, hey, I want to discount this at 30% and run a 3-day sale and start to work on that inside this thread. All of it, though, is grounded in my landing page copy. That's the source of truth. The original source of truth of this thread right now is grounded in web search. Now, there's other ways we can ground AI. We can run deep research, which I won't go into today. We go into that a lot in the Click Pro and Growth OS. We talk about deep research. If you haven't played with deep research, it's a lot of fun to play with. I encourage you to check it out. Custom instruction, which is what we're going to really focus on today. Knowledge base. So attaching things permanently to an AI's brain, if you will, like a PDF file or um, a Excel, like, you know, CSV file full of data or images you can attach at the knowledge base level. And then more and more, guys, we are able to ground our AI in external sources like a CRM, or ground it into your email platform, for example, right? So the more you are able to ground your AI, the less of these drunk uncle, boiled chicken, cold start problems you're going to have with your AI. And it kind of makes sense, right? Like, well, okay, yeah. If I was going to work on, if I'm working on this page, one of the best things I could ever ground the AI in is the contents of this page, right? So it's a really interesting exercise that whenever you're working on your AI, you should ask this question sort of over and over again, which is there some source of truth that I could create or already exists that I could ground this AI in that would allow it to do its job and do it really well? Because you'll be astonished at how much better this thing will do because it is grounded and it does have something, some sort of source of truth that it's working from. It's not going to hallucinate. Like, a lot of people that I jump on calls with, they're like, yeah, it still makes stuff up and hallucinates. And I'm like, it almost never does that with me anymore. And it's because of, again, going a mile deep, learning how to use a tool instead of just sort of like spending energy like spread across 50,000 different tools trying to figure out one tool. It's far better, right? You stop tinkering and making $0 an hour by playing around with a ton of tools. Pick one, invest in it, invest your time, your energy, your money. Like I'm inviting anybody that's some of you guys are on here are already members of the Click Pro. If you really want to learn how to use Chat GPT for marketing, that's what we do. That's what we're doing in here. And I'd love to have you there. Invest in learning a tool. Invest in learning a system around that tool. So let's go back to grounding and pick up where we were. We are going to focus today on custom instruction and a particular type of custom instruction. So when we talked about GPTs last week, we talked about GPTs. We built two GPTs in that training last week. One of them was called Draper. The other one was called the Content Calendar. Draper is a writing GPT. It's an editor. It writes in a very high impact, emotionally charged style, kind of like Don Draper speaks in a Mad Men. So inside of a GPT, you have instructions. Like you're telling this AI, this is how I want you to act. This is how I want you to do your job. You can see here, it's like you are the Draper voice. So writing style defined by high impact, emotionally charged persuasion. What does Draper do? Draper takes a piece of copy and it transforms it into the Draper voice. And that's all it does. It has instructions to literally take any piece of copy and either write it or edit it in the Draper voice. And it has instructions and it has knowledge if you want. If you want to add knowledge, it has knowledge. Well, the same thing is true with ChatGPT projects. So projects can also have instruction and knowledge. And that's what we're going to be playing with today. We're going to be playing with a particular type of instruction, which I call a framework. Anybody calls it framework. I don't call it a framework. Everybody calls these frameworks. So one of the best types of instruction that you can give an AI is a proven existing framework. You go back to the idea of we want to ground our AI in trusted sources. Well, one of the ways to ground an AI is to give it a framework. Like say, this is how I want you to think about the world, right? Like, because you know that AI could talk to you about anything. It could talk to you about what you want to have for dinner tonight. It could talk to you about your workout routine, or it could talk to you about growing your business. And we want to build AIs that have proven frameworks installed in terms of this is how I want you to see the world. I don't want you to think about recipes and workouts. I want you to think about marketing. And we do that. The best place to do that when you structure your AI properly is at the project layer. So let's go back into ChatGPT and take a look around. Let's make sure there's not any big questions here. Allie says she's hovering between mechanic and strategist, but I feel like I'm not using it as effectively as I could. Well, that's true of all of us. We're all learning this stuff and learning these tools. So I'm really tired of everybody telling everybody else that you're behind and that you're never going to catch up and the gap is widening. I mean, it is true. I mean, we've got to adapt and we've got to stay up, but I'm really sort of getting tired of that message of, everybody's behind all the time. I think you can learn this stuff in a weekend. I think if you take the right training, I think you can learn this in a weekend. You can, 4 or 5 hours of good training, and all of a sudden, a few aha moments later, you're like, okay, like I am now using it effectively. Well, let's talk about a component of that, which is projects. So, like I said, let's just collapse all this so it's easier to see. So when you're working in ChatGPT right now, as the time we're recording this, you have these two big sort of entities inside of your ChatGPT account. You have projects and GPTs. So when projects first came out, I don't know about some of you guys have been using ChatGPT for a long time and remember when projects came out, and maybe you're using it enough to have the same question that I and a lot of other people had, which was, well, what the heck is a project? Like, how does it different from a GPT? It looks like it functions the same. Well, what has happened since then is that OpenAI and the engineers over there have made it very, very clear the difference between a project and a GPT. There's a very big difference, and they work really well together. So let's walk through why I say that. So you've got projects. Projects, the very first reason you want to use projects is for organizational purposes, just to keep your damn ChatGPT account organized so that you don't have just threads everywhere and all over the show. That is the first and maybe the smallest benefit, even though it's a nice thing. Probably the smallest benefit of using projects is the organization. But if there's no other reason that you're going to use projects, use it to keep your threads organized. And so you can see that anytime that I'm working on marketing for my company, I'm going to work inside of this marketing folder, if you will, or what ChatGPT calls a project. And you can see I have multiple projects in here. I have a project for my newsletter, for marketing, for product, right? So I'm working on new courses and different things like that. I work inside of this product layer. I've been creating a lot of cartoons for LinkedIn as content. And when I do that, I build those inside of that particular project. Today, I want to talk about building your marketing project. I'm going to give you the instructions. You're going to copy them, paste them, and then we'll play around inside of this marketing project together, or you can do it after the call. But once you install your marketing project, what I would recommend is that from here on out, when you're doing marketing work on your company, do it inside of your marketing project. That way, at the very least, once again, you will have all your marketing threads organized. Now, this is a little extra aside here. It's time also not just to stop tinkering with tools, but also to start treating our tool like we would treat a hard drive or a Google Drive. So decluttering your ChatGPT account is a good idea. They don't make it easy to do that, by the way. You have to delete each thread by itself or archive it or rename it. It's starting to become a good idea, probably always was, but definitely now starting to become a very good idea to sort of keep things cleaned up. How many of you guys are, how many of you guys are, I don't even need to tell you to do this. You're already doing it. Like you're like, oh, I keep all my I delete anything that's in my way. So there's some of us that are like that. I'm not like that naturally with my ChatGPT account. I'm like that most of the time with my hard drive. But the same deal here. We want to declutter this space occasionally. Like it could be something you do while you're watching TV for 30, 45 minutes. Just delete old chat threads, especially if they're inside of a project that is important to you to declutter. And I actually need to do some decluttering right now because I'm starting to get some threads stacking up in here um, that really aren't useful to me anymore. You can start to create some naming conventions. Renee says, I work at keeping it decluttered, but it takes diligence. It does. It does. And I'm not saying like if you don't declutter, it's a horrible thing. I'm just saying like it's starting to become a good idea to create some naming conventions for your threads. Like you can see that I'm working on my Click Pro page inside of this thread. And, ChatGPT gives it like terrible names. Like the name of this thread was who knows what, but I can always just jump in and rename it. And I'm starting to create some naming conventions so that I know that this is where I work on the Click Pro page. I also have threads that are more around promotions, right? So if I'm building a new promo, like that's the last big promo I ran. So inside of this thread, you can see that I was working on this for a couple of weeks inside of here, inside of this thread. And there's a lot of work that went into that promotion that all lives inside of this thread. And I want to keep this thread. I'm not going to delete this thread anytime soon because the next time I run a promo, I'll probably need something from this chat and some kind of output that was in there. So the more you know, right? Like start thinking about how you're going to occasionally declutter particularly important projects, project folders like this. So benefit one of projects is organization. Benefit two is that I think of a project like this as sort of like an intelligent folder. Like the folder itself holds threads inside of it, holds work inside of it. But at that folder layer, it can have, if we give it, custom instructions as to how to operate. So that every thread inside of here, all of these threads operate on a certain set of instruction. And that's the instruction I want to give you today to copy and paste and create your first marketing folder. If it is your first, maybe you already have one, presuming too much. But you can see in this little ellipsis menu up here, that inside of a project is the project settings. And in that set of settings is a set of instructions. And these are the instructions I want to give you today so that you have a marketing project that thinks through a certain lens or framework. So I want you to have a marketing project that thinks about marketing in a certain way. Now, what is that way? So I'm going to talk about real quickly. This is more of a marketing lesson that probably, especially anybody that's been hanging around me for a while, you've heard about a customer journey. I didn't make up the customer journey. This is a well-established framework for thinking about marketing, and it thinks about the fact that a customer or a client is going to work its way through a journey from left to right as they head towards where everybody wants them to go, which is to buy something. And then there's even stuff that happens after uh, someone buys if you're doing your marketing correctly. So, what we have here is, in my opinion, and the way I teach marketing and think about marketing, is that my job as a marketer, as a business growth person, is to move people intentionally, create content, copy, campaigns, whatever, that intentionally move people from one stage of the customer journey to the next. And you can see in this case, it went from problem aware to solution aware to brand aware to positioning aware. And from here, I want them to step into the lead generation section of the customer journey where they subscribe to something of mine. And then they might try my product, whether it's a free trial or they might attend a webinar and try it. Some of you are on this call right now and are not members of my Click Pro. I would love to have you in the Click Pro. And this is a part of my marketing to let you try my training and how I teach and how I work. And so all marketing needs to consider a customer journey. It's a framework around which we can think about marketing. And you can see that I can go for try to buy. And then after someone buys, we want them to succeed with the product that they or service that they got. And we want them to ascend, which is to buy more and buy more often. And we want them to promote. We want them to tell other people how awesome our product or service is. So this is just a customer journey and it's a framework. It's a really powerful framework, and a little bit more on this, like what a healthy business looks like. A healthy business has people at all these stages, just sort of moving people through. And a healthy company is going to have people at all of these stages. All right. So that's the framework that I want to give my marketing folder. Like, I want my marketing project to think about the world through the lens of the customer journey. So, how could we do that? Well, the way we do it, and I think Angela's on the call and she can drop in there a link to this particular document. It's actually going to drop you into a folder that contains the slide deck, this slide deck if you want it, and then this document called Assets, ChatGPT Projects for Marketing Operations. And what you can do is make a copy of this so you have it on in your Google Drive if you use Google Drive, or you can download it, whatever you want to do. But Angela, if you're on there, well, she's using my name. Here's the link. Yeah, so if you click on that link, you can open up this thing. You can open up the deck that I just went through, or you can go open up this assets folder. And the assets folder is going to contain some tabs. Now, I don't know about you, but maybe the best thing that ever happened to me ever was that Google Docs got tabs. I love these tabs, man. I use them all the time now. You make a single document with multiple tabs, productivity. What I left in here was from last week. I left in the GPT instructions. In case you know GPTs well and you want to use either one of these GPTs from last week, I left those in as instructions. But what we're going to be using is the tab that says Project Marketing. Project Marketing. Now, you're seeing my screen. Let me blow this up a little bit so that everybody can see it better. So when we look at the marketing project this is going to be the instructions that we are going to give this AI at the project layer. In other words, at the largest container layer. Anytime I'm working on marketing, I want this AI to have this information, which is I want it to identify business growth opportunities using the customer journey framework. And then I give it a table here. Now, this table contains just a bunch of examples of marketing using the customer journey, using this framework. So, this table, all it is it's basically like a set of operating instructions for the marketing project to say, okay, I get it. I get the customer journey. I understand this framework. I understand people go from left to right. There's different stages of it. And this is how I want my marketing project to think. Does that make sense? Renee, always renaming your threads, huh? I try. I try to keep everything organized in there. All right. So let's go ahead and build our marketing project and then let's play around with it. Before we move on, let me tell you something about this Google Doc that I want you to do. So I want you to go to Tools and Preferences, and turn on Markdown. If you haven't done that already, it's by default not selected. I think it's the only one in here that's not already picked usually. But enable that Markdown. I'll talk a little bit about Markdown as we go, but this is the most technical part of this whole process is to enable Markdown. So I'm going to enable Markdown and click OK. And now I'm going to select all of this, the whole sucker here, all of these instructions as to how I want my marketing project to think. And I'm either going to go to the edit and copy as Markdown, or I'm going to right click and copy it as Markdown. See that? Copy as Markdown. So I'm either going to go to the edit screen up here, copy as Markdown, or I'm going to right click and copy as Markdown. And then let's go back into ChatGPT. So I'm going to build a new project right here with you. In your left panel over there, you'll see it says new project. Let's click on that and let's give this project a name. I'm going to call this marketing unofficial because you'll leave that off because yours will be more official. I like to use this little thing. You don't have to do this part, but I think it's kind of a nice touch. Add a little emoji there. See, you click on that thing. Isn't that fancy? All right. So now let's talk about this little gear icon here. So when you click on the gear, it's basically only got one setting to change in here, and that's memory. But it happens to be the most important concept in all of AI anyway, which is memory. And so it's a pretty important thing to pause here and discuss. So the default setting is going to be that all of the conversations and everything that you have inside of the project, inside of this container, are going to be fair game across your entire ChatGPT account. I say that again. So the memories and the information that you talk about inside of that container, inside of that project, can spread across your whole ChatGPT account. So it could be that you might be in another project altogether and it might reference something from over here in this project, for example, like, oh, do you want me to go talk about this that you were talking about last week in your marketing project? That's the default. The other setting is called project only, which is to say that it can only access memories inside of this sealed container. So it's when you select this project only, it seals the container and it says, don't let information out of here. Like, let's keep this all sealed. The best case scenario for using a sealed project only setting would be if you have clients, right? So if you have multiple clients and you want to create a project for that client and just work on that client's stuff inside of there, first of all, it's going to keep you all organized and everything. But the second thing it's going to do is it's going, if you seal it off right there, it's not going to cross, like the memories are not going to cross into other projects or other threads. I'll tell you right now, I'm almost always selecting project only, just simply because I want to kind of keep control over, what information is bleeding out into other conversations. But you can do whichever you like here. If you don't care either way or don't want to think about it, just select project only. And then you just click the create project button. It's a project getting created there. And now we're sitting inside of sort of the home base of this marketing project. Right now, the only advantage that I have to using this marketing project is that it will keep things organized. That's the only advantage I have right now. But we're going to change that. So what we want to do is go up to this little ellipsis menu and we want to actually customize this AI to think a certain way. We want this entire project to function according to a set of instruction. In this case, the customer journey framework. So remember that all those instructions are sitting on your clipboard, right? We copied it as markdown from here. We go back into ChatGPT, and I'm going to click on this little ellipsis menu up here and go into my project settings. And then here in the instructions box, I am literally just going to right click and paste all of that instruction in here. Now, it looks like a little bit crazy in here, right? Because what the heck are all these hash marks and asterisks and slashes and stuff doing here? What is this? What is this crazy thing? All this is this converted to Markdown. And I'll tell you this, ChatGPT loves Markdown. It loves Markdown. It reads Markdown really well. Although to us, it looks like gobbledygook in some places anyway. To the AI, it's like, oh, I totally understand what you're talking about here. So these instructions get pasted in as Markdown. You don't have to do that. It's a bonus if you do. If you're like, man, that sounds like a pain and all that stuff, then skip it. But if you want, especially when you're using long sets of instructions, this is a best practice. Now we can also attach files here. Look, we can change this. No, you can't change this anymore. I think eventually we'll be able to change project only to, this is sort of set. Remember we set the project only memory. You can't change that once you've created the project. You can delete the project. Can't change the memory setting. Now we'll get into files if we have time towards the end. But you can add PDF files, CSV files, JPEG files, like any kind of files that you could think of pretty much can attach, and you can ground your AI into it, right? If you have let's say a marketing plan, you might want to attach that here. That might be a good place to attach that would be right here in your marketing folder. If you want this AI players in all threads to have access to your marketing plan, put it in here, put it in your files and attach it. Now, I have now gotten the second advantage of using projects. So the first advantage was I created a project that's going to keep me organized. So all my marketing threads will live in here. The second advantage is I gave it instruction as to how I want it to think about marketing. I want it to think about marketing. I don't want it thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner tonight or how my workout's going to go. I want it thinking about marketing. So now I can go in here. Remember that we had this discussion about what this is. You know, we didn't go into a lot of depth about how the customer journey works, but I think most of you see what I'm talking about here, that we go through a journey. It's not something that maybe is something you've probably seen before. The difference is that now my AI has this framework right at the top of its brain. So anytime I'm talking to it about marketing, it's using that customer journey as a framework if I want it to, right? So I can say stuff like, let's plan some lead generation. Okay. So now I say, well, let's plan some lead generation tactics for my business. Well, it's going to go and think about that. And it's going to think about that through my lens, right? Of the customer journey. And it's going to come back with much better ideas and output. Wrong thread. Okay. Blows lead gen game plan, blah, 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 blah. You can see it's starting to refer to the customer journey stages in here. Subscribe to try ladder, subscribe offer easy yes, right? Like I can tell you that this is much better than if I would just go in and start a new chat with no grounding, right? Zero grounding in any sort of instruction or framework or anything, and just start to talk to it about lead generation. But it's also still got a boiled chicken problem, right? It just still is going to have this sort of, okay, well, I can tell you about lead generation in general, but beyond that, I'm going to tell you to like create lead magnets and to get proof and do stuff like that. Very generic answer, actually, but at least an answer at this point that is connected to a framework, right? It's got that it's grounded in. But let's add a little bit more grounding to this AI. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to jump out of my unofficial marketing project and jump into my official marketing project. So this is the real marketing project that I use every day. So I want to go in here and look at these files that are attached that this project is grounded in all the time. Like no matter what which of these projects I'm working on in here, this marketing folder is always grounded in these 5 files. 2 offer documents, 2 persona documents, and 1 is my growth plan for 2026. Now, you don't need all of this, but I'll tell you what you do want. I'm telling you, is you want to get at least a very basic description of what you sell, and a basic description, preferably with a list of pain points of your persona. So you probably played with personas and all that stuff. I'm not going to teach you about personas. If you want to learn about personas, you can go on YouTube and look up personas and find out tons of information about personas. But what I want you to know is that what we really want to make sure we have here is we want this AI to always be grounded in what we sell and who we sell it to. So let's watch what happens when I use this folder, this project, and I want to grow my Click Pro membership lead generation. Remember that I was talking about lead generation, and that persona is called Robin. So I'm going to start this thread by saying the same thing. I'm just going to paste in the last prompt that I said, let's plan some lead generation tactics for my business. And I'm going to just change it slightly. I'm going to say for Click Pro and Robin. Like, even just saying that, my AI is like, well, I know who Robin is. I know what the Click Pro is. I know what lead generation is and how you want to think about it. Let's run that. And what's going to happen is the output becomes incredible. All of a sudden, your AI is like, okay, I got you. I understand what you sell. You can see it's grounding into these documents. See that? It grounded into my growth plan right there. Now, I'm not going to go through and read this because I can tell you I do this all day long every day. And this, compared to the last set of output, the last set was boiled chicken, but it was at least grounded in a framework. Now I've got an AI that's grounded in a framework plus a persona plus an offer, and all of, can click up here and go back into my project, and you can see that now that thread's sitting here. So all my threads start to stack up in here. So I'm organized and I can start to do real work in here. And what happens is it starts to compound and compound and compound. The AI gets smarter and smarter and smarter as you continue to work with it, especially inside of one of these projects, because it's just starting to really understand, like, what are you working on? So when I wake up in the morning and I grab my coffee and I come in and I sit down to work, I can say, all right, let's hop back in here and work on this lead gen plan, right? And it's ready to go. And it's filled with context about what it is I do, who I sell to, and so on. So the last thing I'll show you is sort of tying in what we worked on last week, which was to build custom GPTs. Now, we built 2 custom GPTs last week. We built the content calendar and we built Draper, the editor that is Draper. And the wild thing is that right now, if you're following what I'm saying, like, this AI is grounded in my offer, it's grounded in my persona, it's grounded in my growth plan, it's grounded in a framework around how to think about marketing. And that's all fantastic. But then if you combine GPTs with projects, that's really where the big unlock is, right? The real big next level unlock is in understanding that you can pull in GPTs inside of the project. So if I go down here and I hit that @ symbol, I can call Draper into this conversation and I can say, hey, Draper, I want you. So Draper is a writer, it's an editor, it writes with punchy persuasion. If I need Draper in this project, in this thread, I just call Draper. I say, hey, rewrite that. And then when I'm done with Draper, I can just click and turn it off and remove Draper from the conversation. Last week, we talked about the difference between what is a good analogy for a GPT. So these other guys that are up here, these GPTs, these tools here that we can build, think of them like a hammer or a screwdriver or a saw, right? And you're working on a project like I'm doing here. I'm working inside my marketing project. I'm working on a lead gen plan. I'm working on a lead gen plan for the Click Pro membership and for Robin, the persona. And it's referencing a little bit of my growth plan here. And so I've got all this context. And now I need something written. Like I need to write something and I want to use my Draper voice for that. In this thread, I just call Draper in, or we also built the content calendar for. So let's say I need a content calendar now. I just call that tool in. So I pick up the hammer, the tool, I use the content calendar, it builds my content calendar, and then I set it back down because I don't need it anymore. I just dismiss that GPT. So I want to pause here because we're getting to the top of the hour and I want to invite you guys to join us in the Click Pro. So the Click Pro is a yearly membership. We are deeply invested in learning to use particularly ChatGPT right now. And if one of the other tools becomes better, we will switch. But for now, mile deep into how to use ChatGPT to do business growth work. If you do join us, the first training that you need to go through is called Growth OS. And as I showed you before, it looks like this. A lot of you guys on here are already members of Click Pro. Love you all. This training right here. So if you go to the click.ai/pro, but yeah, the Growth OS training is about, I would say, a little under 4 hours. And we implement what we are talking about in here, how to actually structure a ChatGPT account to do real business work. We have mastermind meetings together. We do office hours trainings together. It's a good community of people that are using AI to build businesses, to grow businesses. And we'd love to have you in there. You can go to the click.ai/pro to, thank you, Renee. Thank you, Charlotte. Charlotte, you love the Growth OS, huh? Yeah. And the idea here, again, is that we don't want to keep tinkering at this point. I think that's a big takeaway, whether you join us or not. It's a big takeaway is stop playing and start building like and to do that, you almost got to be like, okay, I'm going to stop getting distracted by all these other tools. And I know it's super hard to do that. But one of the things that we do as a group is we kind of point out like, hey, this is a tool worth paying attention to. This is a new technology worth paying attention to. But for the most part, there is a lot of value in just using the same tool and learning it, truly learning how to use it to grow a business. And that's what we're doing at the Click and the Click Pro. All right, cool guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you got a lot out of it. Hope you'll join us at the Click Pro. And we'll see you on the next training. Bye bye.